Constitutional Conversations is a series of discussions by America's leading scholars about the principles, framing, ratification, and implementation of constitutional government in the United States. This series is hosted by the James Madison Memorial Fellowship Foundation of Alexandria, Virginia.
Well, we're here with Dr. Paul Carrese, and the most recent of our constitutional conversations, which we hold from time to time here at the James Madison Foundation in Alexandria, Virginia. Dr. Carrese is the founding director of the School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership at Arizona State University. For 2 decades, he was a civilian professor of political science at the U.S. Air Force Academy, where he co-founded and directed the Academy's Great Books Honors Program. He's been a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford, a postdoctoral fellow at Harvard, a Fulbright Fellow at Delhi University in India, and a visiting fellow in the James Madison program at Princeton. Dr. Carrese has published many articles and book chapters, but he is an expert, I think it's fair to say, on the political philosophy and the legacy of the Baron de Montesquieu, Montesquieu as we call him, a French Enlightenment thinker, a jurist. And so, Dr. Carrese, let's begin. Tell us who Montesquieu was and why we should be interested in him today.
Thank you, Jeff. First, I should say it's an honor to be working with the James Madison Foundation and to be talking with you. These questions of our constitutional history and the ideas behind them are so crucial. They always have been, but they're very important right now. So, yes, thank you for talking about Montesquieu. He's less well known than his important counterpart, John Locke, as a crucial source of the philosophical political ideas that make America as a republic what we are. Locke writes in English. Locke has a sort of cleaner, clearer philosophy. Locke is more influential on the Declaration of Independence because Locke's philosophy includes this argument for revolution if natural rights are violated. But Montesquieu is so important, I think, during the period of the arguments about revolution and the Declaration. And then by the 1780s, as the Americans, somehow successful in the Revolutionary War, have to face the question of how will we actually structure institutions and governments. The state constitutions have to be written, then the Articles of Confederation are attempted, and after a few years, it's thought some revision to the Articles is needed. And so Montesquieu is the great authority of the political science of free peoples writing constitutions, structuring their politics so as to sustain freedom. So many of us have not heard of Montesquieu, but we have heard of the separation of powers and 3 branches of a government, which is in many of our state constitutions and obviously in the federal 1787 Constitution. We've heard of federalism, the idea of a federation of republics. These ideas in these particular forms come directly from Montesquieu. So another way of thinking about this is that, as many people would know, we have great debates about the ratification of the 1787 Constitution in 1787 into 1788. And both sides, state by state in the ratification debates, are citing one authority more than any other. The Constitution should be ratified because Montesquieu would say this is right about it and that's right about it. And the other side, the anti-federalists, as we call them, saying this Constitution should not be ratified, it needs to be amended, maybe scrapped altogether because Montesquieu would criticize it in this way and this way. So he has fallen a bit in the past, I would say, certainly decades and maybe longer. He's fallen out of our everyday vocabulary in universities and in high schools and elsewhere as so crucially important. So the Madison Foundation is doing a favor by talking about this important philosopher. Part of his philosophy was that peoples in places around the world who wanted free government, a more moderate kind of politics, would have to decide for themselves just how to take very large, important principles of justice and adapt them and apply them. So I think he would understand that both the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists were citing him, disagreeing about just what what he meant. But it's fair to say that we would not be the federal constitutional republic of the United States of America in the way that we are if this 18th century French Enlightenment philosopher had not written this big book, The Spirit of Laws, that was fairly quickly translated into English and had enormous influence in college students like James Madison in Princeton, New Jersey, and Thomas Jefferson in Virginia, and Alexander Hamilton, and other great leaders of our constitutional order were studying this book like a textbook of political science. So it's had a great effect.